Springboks are set for a tough encounter against Los Pumas in the Rugby Championship clash at the Kings Park Stadium in Durban later on this afternoon. So with the competition now heating up and only 2 rounds left, the Boks aim to secure crucial points to clinch the championship, building on their strong performances earlier in this year's tournament. Our sports reporter Yolulwe Qoshe joins us from Durban to help us look ahead to this clash. Yolulwe, a very good morning to you and thank you so much for your time. You know, a lot to expect regarding this game between South Africa as well as Argentina. I guess first let's talk about the weather conditions out in Durban, because I do understand that this week there's been some rainy conditions out in Durban. How are things like at the moment on your side?
Well, a very good morning to you in studio, Rachel, as well as to the viewers at home, of course. Well, here in Durban, I remember when I left Johannesburg, the sun was struggling to get itself free from the clouds. I don't know if that's still the same situation, but I'm happy to say here in Durban, we have none of those problems. It's proper summer weather here. It is not too hot, it's not humid either. It is proper test rugby conditions as well for the players that will be playing here at Kings Park Stadium. Of course, when the Springboks do take on Argentina, kickoff for that game is set for 5:10. It's expected to be much cooler, of course, by the time kickoff happens there. So perfect weather conditions right here. We're by the beach. In fact, here in Umhlanga behind me is a lighthouse, one of the first buildings here in Umhlanga way back in the days. I see people here, Rachel, they're wearing their short sleeves, they're wearing their shorts, and I'm a bit frustrated, Rachel, because that means that somebody messed up my memo because I don't have the same dress code, so somebody didn't tell me what the dress code was today. So that is the source of my frustration for now. No rain like there has been during the week. They have been forgiven. The weather gods are happy that Test Rugby is upon Durban today, and they've given the people of Durban and the influx of people touring into Durban for this game, perfect weather for hopefully a perfect spectacle later on today.
All right, we are hoping to see a full house at the Kings Park Stadium later on this afternoon, Yolulwe. Let's talk about the exclusion of Qoshe. Obviously, the news came out yesterday that he will not be part and parcel of this team because of an injury concern. How serious is that injury concern, and what do you make of the fact that Qoshe will not be part of this team?
Well, we were able to speak to assistant coach Newzroom Stick yesterday, who shed a bit more light on that injury, saying it's an injury that he actually picked up a fortnight ago against New Zealand. They were wanted to give him as much time as possible to make the call, and then it became apparent yesterday that he wasn't quite at the level that they would have been hoping for, especially in a game of high stakes against Argentina, where they have to keep on winning if they are to regain their Rugby Championship title. So he also did say, though, however, that there are no needs to worry. There is no disruption by that late withdrawal and the entry of Boan Venter. He spoke about the fact that Boan Venter has been a part of this Springbok side since the very beginning of this international window. He's played a couple of games for the Springboks as well. In fact, I was at his debut at the Mbombela Stadium. I think a try-scoring debut as well against Georgia. So he's a player that also played against New Zealand in that first game at Eden Park. A player that knows what is expected of a prop, a loose head prop in the Springboks. He will know what duties he needs to take care of for his team. Therefore, the team should be more or less seamless in terms of how they transition from not having Qoshe. But where there might be a few differences is the scrummaging. Qoshe is known for a mammoth scrummaging performance every game that he puts out for the Springboks. Is also a very mobile loose head prop. So there might be the differences between himself and Boan Venter. Boan Venter will have to prove his acumen when it comes to scrum time. Also, Qoshe knows what it's like to play against Argentina, having played against them so many times in different Rugby Championship campaigns, but also that little bit of a know-how of playing at Kings Park Stadium for the Sharks, knowing how to move around on the ground. That might be something that we miss by not having Qoshe in this particular game. There's a shift because of the injury on the bench, that is, because Jan Hendrik Wessels, who was said to be the hooker replacement, now shifts to his normal position as a prop replacement. And then, of course, there is that, situation where Marco van Staden, he then becomes the player that will be the hooker replacement. I remember when that experiment first took place, we were at the World Cup in France. It raised a couple of eyebrows. I can't remember that experiment having, too many successful memories back then, Rachel, so I don't know how ideal that is. But Coach Mzwandile Stick did say he has got no concerns over Marco van Staden filling in that particular position. So if he is required, he probably will be required. Let's wait and see if he has grown in his acumen as a hooker, because there it's all about the technicalities. Your line-out throw has to be seamless, because set pieces are very important, especially if you do get penalties deeper into the opposition half. We saw a lot of times with Malcolm Marx in New Zealand, where the Springboks got solid ground, got a penalty in the half of the New Zealand team, but they couldn't execute because the line-out wasn't swift. We don't want to see such problems, and we're hoping that Marco van Staden would have worked on his game quite a bit in training this week.
Of course, Marco van Staden starting from the bench later on today, Yolulwe. Another thing that everybody's talking about, and I think we have to also reflect on, is the fact that the coach of the side, Rassie Erasmus, has made minimal changes to the team that went on to beat New Zealand about 2 weeks ago out at Wellington. How important is that to remain with the same team? About 2 personnel changes made by the Boks coach. But here he's showing us that he's remaining consistent with his team selection. Is that a good thing going into this tie against Argentina?
I think, Rachel, that just simply speaks of a man who wants to see something from the players that he put out there. If you recall correctly, that particular starting lineup was very disrupted because there were so many injuries early in that game that forced early entrances. If I recall from the top of my head, in the first 5 minutes, the Springboks lost Lut Dioga. They had Archie Snyman came in to an extremely good effect. They also then lost Sasha Fainberg. Ngomezulu failed his head assessment injury. Manilibo came on to also a very good effect. They lost Kobus Reinach to HIA. He was able to come back. Apelele Fasi was injured, had to come off, as well as Cheslin Kobe later on. But he says probably to the guys, maybe a guy like Sasha Fainberg, Ngomezulu, I'm going to give you another opportunity to start at 10 because I want to see something from you. I want to give you that opportunity. I want you to give me the type of performances that you were giving me in the 2024 Rugby Championship in Sasha Fainberg, Ngomezulu's breakout season. Because it could have easily gone for a player like Mani Libbok who finished that game so strong. But I'm sure there's a plan there. He's probably speaking to the guys like Mani Libbok, Archie Snyman, guys that came on to devastating effect against New Zealand and said, I know what you guys can do. I want you guys to be patient, wait for your opportunity from the bench, and when you do get the chance to come on from the bench, give me that very same performance that you gave against New Zealand to take the level up and make sure that our intensity at Kings Park Stadium is going from up to upper so they can finish as strong as the way that they will be starting and hopefully get a bonus point victory, because that is what the Springboks will need today after New Zealand were able to beat Australia. For South Africa to make that a favor for them, bonus point victory at Kings Park Stadium will be the order of the day.
Yeah, bonus point victory for the Springboks, the order of the day, according to our reporter Yolulwe Qoshe, who's out in Durban for us this morning. Yolulwe, thank you so much for that comprehensive build-up to this Rugby Championship tie between the Springboks as well as Argentina out at the Kings Park.